Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to yet another episode in Inner Guide Q&A program. Today we are going to discuss about a question that has been mentioned in the comments. The question is how to remain peaceful and calm under stressful situations. Coming right up. Stressful and difficult situations are the situations that we all have faced in all of our lives. But many of us face these situations in an unsuccessful way. Under difficult circumstances, under stressful situations, we become depressed, sad, and anxious. So, how to remain calm and how to maintain your inner peace under these circumstances? So, first of all, we have to know and we have to learn and we have to observe what is the situation. Remember, there is a common nature in all the experiences and situations that we face in our life. What is this? What is that common nature? That is called the impermanence. Whatever we encounter and whatever we experience in our life, soon after that has been experienced, it becomes impermanent. Isn't that right? Yes, it is. Now imagine someone is complaining to you about a mistake that you have done or maybe you haven't done, right? So he's yelling at you, right? So in that moment, when the people complain and blame at us, we become depressed, we become sad. But what is the nature of that situation? What is the nature of those words, those rude words? Now, soon after we hear them, they become impermanent. Right? Soon after you hear them, they will no longer prevail in our life. They are gone. That means everything that we encounter in our life, experience in our life, they become impermanent. That is the nature. But the real problem is that our mind clings to those experiences and there's a nature in our mind that it creates again and again those experiences inside. Now, for an example, as I mentioned before, when someone blames us, right? Now we know that soon after that we got the blame, the words are gone, they have become impermanent. But what our mind does, it creates those words again and again. We think those rude words again and again, and we become sad and depressed. But the real nature is, those words are gone, they have become impermanent. Right? So that is the nature. Understanding about the impermanence, understanding that these experiences and all the things that we face in our life are impermanent is very important to face or to be calm in a difficult situation. Because you know the nature. That is the first step. We need to understand that each and everything that we face in our life is impermanent. Right? Whether you face a terrible time, it will become impermanent. It will be changed. There will be a good day. Whether you face a good time, a happy time, and a wonderful time, that will also become impermanent. That is the nature. So first of all, you need to understand about this. The world is impermanent. Our life is impermanent. Nothing is permanent in this world, not even your problems. First step. And the second step, whenever you are in a difficult situation, whenever you are in a terrible moment, you need to practice some practices or to do something to remain peaceful and maintain your peacefulness and think of a solution to solve this problem. So how to do that? Now, many of us, during the difficult situations, we become panicked. We freak out. So, it is the best thing to do during a difficult situation is to do some practices to calm our mind. So what we can do to make our minds calm? The best thing that you can do to make your mind calm and peaceful is do some meditation. Right? Do a little bit of a meditation during that stressful situation. So how to do that? The easiest meditation that you can practice within a stressful situation is to contemplate on your breath. Now, breath is an amazing thing. It changes according to the situation. Isn't that right? So when we are in a terrible moment, right? When we are in a dangerous moment, what is the nature of our breathing pattern? It becomes fast and it becomes shorter. We take short and fast breathing patterns, right? So what is the nature of our breathing pattern? That when we go to sleep, what do we do normally? I think most of you have experienced this. When you go to bed and when you lie down, you take a deep breath in and let it go. That is a sign that your body shows that you are going to rest. So if you need to become peaceful and serene and tranquilized, you need to restructure your breath. So in a difficult and terrible and stressful situation, just take deep breaths in. You can do it. Breathe in deeply and let it go. And contemplate on the pattern of your breathing. Now you can do this, but this needs a little bit of a practice. Right? You cannot do it without a practice. First of all, you need to practice this. Now some people may question, now I cannot do this in a difficult situation. Yes, you cannot do it because you don't have that practice. First of all, you need to practice this contemplation and this practice where there is no stressful situations. Right? That is the thing. The nature of these practices is that if you do it whenever there is no problem, then it will help you to practice that way or the situation or that remedy during a stressful situation. There's a great saying that it says, if you sweat during the times of peace, you will bleed less during the times of war. That means if you practice during the times of peaceful situations and where there is no stressful situations, it will help. That practice will help you to face the difficult situations. So, practice at least 5 minutes a day to contemplate on your breath. Right? You can feel the way that you are breathing. Right? It will help you to tranquilize your mind. Supreme Buddha said, Vitakku pachedaya Anapanasati bhavetappa. If you need to stop the chattering mind, if you need to stop the thoughts that are popping up all the time that inside your mind, just practice the Anapanasati, or which we call the breathing meditation. Just contemplate on the breathing meditation. When you contemplate your mind on this breathing pattern, right, you're focusing your mind to inhale and to the exhale. That means your mind jumps from one thought to another, but there is only two thoughts. Inhale and exhale. You're not thinking about anything else. Right? That means you reduced thousands and millions of thoughts to 2 thoughts. So that is a big thing. So if you do it as a practice, you will feel that your mind will become more and more peaceful and tranquilized. So whenever you face a difficult and stressful situation, try to take deep breaths, few deep breaths in and let them go. And it will make you feel better. Right? So if you need to face a difficult situation, if you need to face a stressful situation successfully, you have to be ready for that situation where there is no stress. So that is how you face the difficult situations without being distracted. And also, as an extra thing, you have to practice the love and kindness. And also you have to practice the forgiveness. If you can practice these great qualities like compassion, love and kindness, especially forgiveness, you can maintain your peacefulness. Because when you forgive people, as an example, when you forgive people, that means you are letting go of them, right? The more you forgive, the more you will feel the peacefulness within. But forgiveness does not mean that you are going to fall into the same trap again and again for them. You forgive for yourself, and you know that person, and you can stay away from them in a positive way, and you can still be kind to them. Because kindness and forgiveness starts within your heart, and it will help you always. So practice these practices in the times where there are no stress and disturbing situations. And one day, when you master them, one day you can maintain your peacefulness within yourself without being distracted. If there is one thing in common in this world that all living beings search for, that is the happiness. We all like to be happy. We all seek happiness in this world. If I ask from you, would you like to be happy in your life? What will be your answer? You will say, of course, I want to be happy in my life. I want this peaceful state. I need to be in that. That is your answer. That is the answer of all living beings. Buddha says that all living beings likes to be happy and they seek the happiness. If you really think about our life, we are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. Let me tell that again. We are in a never-ending journey of pursuing happiness. That means we are pursuing happiness, we are chasing and we are seeking for happiness, but yet we have not found it. So, what is the reason for this not finding happiness? Why we don't find happiness in our life? We are seeking it, we are finding for it, but we don't find it. What is the reason? Well, the Buddha teaches us that we are finding or we are seeking this happiness from a source that the happiness does not exist. Because we are seeking happiness from external world. We are seeking happiness from these materialistic things. Well, when you seek happiness from materialistic things or external world, you get pleasure, but that is not happiness. Pleasure is something temporary and it gives you this instant gratification. But in happiness, the happiness is long-lasting and it gives you this happiness or the contentment about yourself. So that is why Buddha teaches us that you're finding the happiness from a source where the happiness does not exist. So the more you find it, the more you become frustrated. So, will we ever be able to find happiness in our life? The Buddha answers this question. He says, yes, you can find happiness in your life. How to do that? If you look closely to the first and the second verses of Dhammapada, Buddha says, if one with an impure mind speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him like a cartwheel following the ox. If with an impure mind one speaks or acts, the suffering will follow him. And in the next verse, Buddha says, if with a pure mind one speaks or acts, the happiness will follow him like a shadow following a man. So that means the happiness and the sadness entirely depends on the purity and the impurity of our mind. When our mind is pure, we can find the happiness. So, how can we gain this purity in our mind in order to find the happiness? Well, Buddha teaches us there are a lot of things that you can do to make your mind pure. So today, I'm going to share with you a few things that can give you the happiness in your life, that you can find the happiness in your life. First thing, accepting the reality of life will give you the happiness. You know, life is full of ups and downs. Sometimes you have good days, sometimes we have bad days, sometimes we have beautiful memories, sometimes we also have miserable memories. So life is not something that is going equally every day. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. When you realize this reality, you can face these situations successfully. Right? It is not always this bad experience makes us frustrated. It is our reaction towards this bad experience makes us frustrated. Whenever you get a bad experience or a bad day or a bad situation, tough situation, difficult situation, you have two choices. Either you can focus on the pain and feel miserable about that situation, or you can focus on the lesson that bad situation teaches us and learn from it and start growing your life. So, if you accept the reality of life, it is not temporary. Sometimes the people around us are not in our control. We cannot control their reactions. We cannot control their opinions. So when you realize these situations, you can face those situations successfully. That is one thing, accepting reality of the life. Number two, Buddha said, be generous. Practicing generosity is a major practice in Buddhism. Well, in Buddhism, the generosity is known as dana. In dana, Buddha says that you have to give without any expectations. We have to give and we have to dedicate towards others without expecting anything in return. That is one thing that we have to practice. Most of the time, we like to hold on to things or gather the things towards us. That is what people think. When you gather more, when you collect more things, you will get rich and you will gain happiness. But that does not give you the happiness. It will give you the pleasure, but it is temporary. So what we have to do, Buddha says, be generous, give, help others, dedicate a part of your life on behalf of others. When you do that, when you become more generous, let's say like this, you gave some foods to a poor person, let's say like that. When you see that person is having those foods and overcoming his hunger and making his life much better, you can be happy by seeing that. When you become happy like that, you feel happy about yourself, right? Nothing can give you that happiness. Like by eating a good food, by dressing a nice dress, you cannot gain that happiness. You don't feel happy about yourself, right? Let's say after hundred of years later, maybe 10 decades later, when you think about that incident, I gave this food to this poor person. When you remind that, you feel happy. Even then you feel happy. That means happiness is long-lasting. So Buddha says, be generous, help people, do something nice every day for a person. That is one thing we can do. And number 3, forgiving. Forgiving is one of the most important things that we can do to create happiness in our life. We have to forgive ourselves. Also, we have to forgive others too. Because forgiving, when you forgive, it doesn't mean that you are saying okay to others' mistakes. It's okay. No, you're not saying like that. When you forgive, you make your heart free. So when you forgive, it's not for that person, it is for you. And also we have to forgive for ourselves. There are so many mistakes that we all have done in the past. If you hold on to past, and if you make this present moment miserable, that will not give you the happiness. So what do we have to do? Whatever the bad thing that we have done in the past, we have to have this ability to forgive ourselves and start all over again. We all have that ability, right? We all have that privilege to start our life again and make it a better one. Okay? So no one is perfect in this world. We all have done mistakes. One thing that we have to do is to forgive and start doing good things. So these are 5 things that we can do to create happiness in our life. And also, there is one happiness that is called the ultimate happiness in this world that the Buddha teaches us. That is called Nibbana or Nirvana. That is the enlightenment. When you realize about the reality of this life, and when you remove this desire or the craving that arises within your mind, then Buddha says that is the ultimate happiness. Simply, the Nibbana means Ragakkayo, Dosakkayo, Mohakkayo, Nibbana. That means removing of the desire, anger, and the delusion of the mind is called the enlightenment. So that is the highest level of happiness that we all can reach. So when you practice these practices, right, when you engage yourself in wholesome state, that will create you the happiness in the life. So practice these things and make your life a happier one. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. You know what? Today we are going to have a storm to our monastery, right? It's a big storm incoming. And the sky is getting gloomy and gloomy little by little. But you know what? Few hours ago, the whole monastery was shining and it was bathed with sunlight, right? So the weather changes so rapidly, the nature changes so rapidly. So as our life. In life, some days we have storms, right? Sometimes we are very happy. Sometimes we celebrate our life like shiny days, right? Like sunny days. But sometimes it becomes gloomy. All of a sudden it becomes gloomy. It becomes so moody, right? So we feel down, we feel terrible, like we feel depressed, right? And for some days, there's nothing special, like the empty sky, right? So this is life. It always changes, okay? So today, I'm going to talk about this one habit that we all have been through, and that can affect us in many ways in our life, and that is the habit of overthinking, right? We all have been through that situation that we have overanalyzed situations, and we have expected worst case scenarios, and we have kept on thinking about certain things, what will happen in the future, what has happened in the past. That is very painful, and it steals our peacefulness in our life. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you few tips that can manage the habit of overthinking and to stop the habit of overthinking. So let's dive into the video. So the first thing that we have to know before doing any kind of thing is to identify what triggers you, what makes you overthink, right? Because without identifying and without knowing what makes you overthink, you cannot deal with it, you cannot manage it, right? So for people, it may be different ways of triggers. Sometimes people have some fears about talking with other people, right? People have fears about like traveling alone, right? Sometimes people have a fear about what other people think of me, okay? So it is different from one person to another. So the first thing is to identify what makes you overthink, what triggers you. Once you know it, write it down on a paper, okay? This is what makes me overthink. This is what making me troubles, okay? That is the first step, identifying what triggers you to overthink. And then the next step, the second step is to be mindful about that trigger and that emotion, okay? Because once you identify your trigger, right, what makes you overthink, you can be mindful about it. You can identify it. Once those thoughts comes to your mind, like maybe a fear, maybe like a worry, maybe like a sadness, when it comes to your mind, just if you practice this mindfulness, you can catch that thought. You can identify that thought. Now I'm going to worry. Now I'm worrying, right? Now I have this fear in my mind. Because when you become mindful, you understand about it and you know about it. You become aware of it. Then you will have the power to control it, right? Always remember, you cannot control anything that you don't know about and you're not aware about, right? So the second thing is to be aware and to be mindful about your thought. This is one thing that stuck in my mind for a long time, that a thought is just a thought until we give the power to control it ourselves. Okay, so what we have to know, understand the thought as just a thought, right? Don't give the power to control it, right? Don't judge the thought. Don't try to stop the thought, right? Just identify it as just a simple thought, as any other thought. Okay, that is the second step. And the third step, you can challenge yourself. You can challenge your mind. Ask from your mind. Whenever you catch yourself overthinking, ask from your mind, is this real? Am I worrying about a real thing or a realistic thing? Is that going to happen in reality? So when you think about that, you will come across these conclusions. No, it's not going to happen. Why am I worrying about it? Right? Why am I thinking about it? I don't want to do that, right? It will steal my peacefulness. Okay? So when you think like that, you know what is going inside your mind. So the whole point and the whole secret about stopping this overthinking pattern is to know what is going inside your mind. Okay? That is one thing that you can do to challenge your thoughts. And then the next step is to take action. There is no any other remedy for all these problems, all these mental restrictions that you have in your mind other than taking actions. Okay? I don't suggest you to take big actions. What you have to do is to take small step, to do little things that you feel like a fear and a worry about things, okay? Just go for it and take action. If you have a fear of talking with a person, just for a little time, go and talk with him. Plan it and go and talk with him. If you have a fear of traveling alone, just try it a little bit, okay? It will make you more confident about it. So the fourth step is to take action, okay? And then the final step. If you feel like your overthinking pattern, your habit is troubling you and it is restricting you and it is holding you back from doing great things and becoming great, then you have to seek for help, right? Remember, you don't have to travel this journey alone. You have to seek for the help from trusted people. Maybe your trusted friend, it may be one of your family friends, maybe one of your relations, maybe your parents, maybe a counselor. Seek for help, right? Don't be shy and don't be afraid to ask for help and to reveal what is going inside your mind. When you reveal yourself and when you seek for the help, always there are people who can help you. Okay, so you are not alone in this world. Even 73%, you know that 73% of the young people in the age range of 25 to 35 suffer from chronic overthinking. So you are not alone in this world. Okay, so what we have to do is to first thing, to identify what triggers you. Second thing, to be mindful, and then to challenge your thoughts and take action. And if all those things does not work, seek for the help. And always the help will be given to you. So these are the few things and the little things that you can practice in your life to overcome the pattern and the habit of overthinking. So I wish all the best in your journey of overcoming the overthinking patterns and living a life more productive and more happy. Namo Buddhaya. The Buddha said, all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. When one sees this with insight and wisdom, one turns away from suffering and dissatisfaction in life. So from today's video, let's talk about the three signatas of life. Three signatas, or in Pali we call it Tilakkhana, is one of the fundamental teachings of Buddhism. The Buddha taught us that these three signatas are the fundamental nature of everything around you and everything within you, right? Everything within you and everything around you carries these three natures of life. So what are these three natures? The first one is anicca. The Buddha said, the life is impermanent. Everything around you, everything within you is subject to impermanence, right? So anicca means impermanence. Then the second sign, the second signata of life is dukkha. Dukkha can be translated into English as suffering. It is the most common translation. And also it gives the meaning of dissatisfaction of life. Okay? So the second sign, the second nature of life is that it is suffering and dissatisfaction. And the third is called anatta. Anatta can be translated into English as not self, right? So these are the three signs of everything around you and everything within you. So how can we understand this teaching of the Buddha? So first we'll take a look at anicca. What do you mean by anicca? The translation is impermanence. How can we understand impermanence? So there are these levels of anicca or levels of impermanence that we can understand. Okay, the first is the most peripheral and the most superficial impermanence of life, right? That everyone can understand. For an example, like seasons change, right? It is an impermanence. And sometimes these rivers, they dry up, right? It is an impermanence. These buildings collapse, right? It is an impermanence. Your car breaks down, your laptop doesn't stop working. This is more peripheral and more superficial, and everyone can understand this kind of impermanence in life. And there is this second level of impermanence that is more subjective to you, right? Your body starts aging, okay? Your body is under constant change, right? It is aging. That is an impermanence. And then your body is subject to illness or sickness, right? All of a sudden you fall ill. One time you was healthy and you become ill. That is also an impermanence. And then sometimes people change, their mindsets change, their personalities change. This is something that is more subjective to you. It is very closer to your life, right? And there is this more subtler and very subtle way of impermanence that lies within all of our lives. For an example, who you are, okay, what you call yourself is a bunch of experiences, right? You perceive this world and you connect to this world, you get connected to this world through these perceptions, right? These experiences, you see the things from your eyes, you listen to things from your ears, you smell things, you taste things, you feel things to your body, you think from your mind. So all these experiences are under constant change. Just take a look at your life, right? Now, if I ask from you, what happened to all the words that you heard from this video, in the beginning of this video? What happened to them now? They have been changed now. They have become impermanent. So in life, all these experiences, right? And all these perceptions how we perceive this world, all these experiences that we get connected with this world are under constant change. They have this transient nature. Okay? So that is the very subtler and the most deepest impermanence in life. Right? So what happens, how this becomes impermanent? The Buddha said why this becomes impermanence is because everything is conditioned. Everything arises due to conditions. For an example, when we see things, right, there should be certain conditions to see for our vision, right? When we hear things, there are certain conditions that occur within us, right? For an example, if someone blamed us, okay, in a faraway place, from a faraway place, let's say in another country, someone is blaming us, right? Do we get angry? We don't get angry, right? Because we didn't hear it. Now, when we hear this, okay, as soon as we hear this, now we become angry. So there are certain conditions that they need to come together for our perceptions and for our experiences in this world. So the nature of these conditions is that they are also under constant change. Okay? When the conditions change, our experiences change. That means who you are is under constant change, which we call anicca. Okay? So that is the way that we can understand the impermanence. Now, to understand this subtler impermanence, okay, this deepest impermanence, everyone cannot understand this. This need the meditational development, a developed mind, well-disciplined mind to do that. That is why we practice this insight meditation. Okay, so this is the anicca that Buddha talked about. Okay, this is the impermanent. That is the first sign of life, that everything around you, everything within you is under constant change. That is the first thing. Now, if I ask from you, if someone expect the permanence from these impermanent things, right? If someone expect things to be permanent, experiences to be permanent, when the very nature of everything is impermanent, what happens to that person? Would that person get what they expect, what he expect? No, right? And what happens to you when you don't get what you expect? You are dissatisfied, right? And you suffer. And that is what you call the second signata of life, the second nature of life. That is, life is subject to suffering. Life consists of dissatisfaction. Okay? Because we expect things to be permanent, our experiences to be permanent, when the very nature of everything, every experience within us is impermanence. Okay? I heard this wonderful quote from a famous monk. He said, "Impermanence doesn't make us suffer. What makes us suffer is wanting things to be permanent when the very nature of things are impermanent." Okay? So the second signata of life is the dukkha, the dissatisfaction. Why dukkha? Because things are impermanent and we expect things to be permanent, right? Letting go of these expectations to be permanent is what you call the realization, the liberation, right? Expecting things to be permanent when the things are impermanent is called the ignorance in life. Okay? So the second signata is that life is unsatisfactory, right? Everything around you cannot satisfy you to the fullest extent, right? For an example, we love every experience to be permanent, and we think that every experience is permanent. For an example, let's say when you have a happy feeling, okay, let's say you have a happy and a pleasurable feeling. What you expect what you expect from that experience? We expect, okay, I wish this experience will last forever with me. It will stay with me forever. But it isn't, right? How many happy experiences have you gone through? And now they're gone. They cease to exist. That is the nature of life. Okay? Let's say we are going through a difficult experience, painful experience. What we think, okay, this pain will last forever. I will have to suffer forever. But the very nature of life is that it is also under constant change. Okay? So this is what we need to understand. Okay? So the second signata of life is called dukkha. And what is the third signata? The third sign of life? It is called anatta. Anatta is, in English we call it not self. Right? The Buddha said, if something is impermanent, okay, if the life itself, if the life around you, if the life within you is under constant change, can you expect any unchangeable and permanent self even within you? No. Okay? So anatta means no permanent self, right? Even our consciousness changes according to our perceptions. That is the nature of life. So if even the consciousness change, right? If even the consciousness conditioned, right? Then we can't expect any self to be permanent. Okay? This is called anatta. Okay? The not self nature of life. The perfect example for life is the flame. For an example, let's say we light up a candle and there you can see a flame, right? Now, you can point out and show the flame and we see the flame as an object. It appears to be like an object. But if you take a closer look at this flame, the nature of flame is that it is not one permanent thing, one unchanging thing. It is under constant change. It is a process, right? It is the process of combustion, right? If it wasn't, the flame always depend on the conditions. When the conditions are there, the flame exists. When the conditions are not there, the flame ceases to exist. For an example, let's say, can you remove the flame from the candle? You can't. Why? Because the flame entirely depends on that condition, the wick, the wax, the heat and everything. Okay? So our life is always a collection of conditions. Okay? When the conditions are there, the experiences arise. When the conditions become impermanent, the experiences change. This is the very nature of life. So this is these are the three signatas of everything around you. Look around you, right? Everything, that objects, things, people, right? Your experiences, your body, everything has this very nature. So the Buddha said, if someone understood with developed wisdom, right? If someone understood this very nature of life, he turns away from suffering because he doesn't expect things to be permanent, because he knows that everything around him and everything within him is impermanent. So I hope you got some light about these three signatas of life. So I wish you, may you be healthy and may you be happy and may you be able to realize these three signatas of life in this life. Namo Buddhaya.